Hey guys, always Dizzy here, and I am back with my round three game report from the 2024 Grand Pacific Open. As a quick reminder, in round one, I drew a 1968 over the board rated player, which was a bit of a regret because I was completely winning that game. I was like +4 or +5, but I just got scared and accepted the draw offer. In round two, I drew again, but that was annoying because my opponent had only played one classical game before, and so he was provisionally rated. He was like 868, something like that. But he's actually 1750 FIDE. So it was so that was kind of annoying. So round three, I was playing Jasper Zhang, I'm not sure how you pronounce it, who was maybe around 11 years old or so. And I played him before, 3 months before. You can actually see that game on my channel. That was from the 2024 New Year's Open. And I was white in that game as well. And I did win that game. Yeah. So this is a very annoying video that I have to make because I had spent about an hour and a half, maybe longer, writing a very detailed, super detailed chess-based report, like game file that I had lots of variations and great commentary on that I used to make these videos. But then chess-based crashed and none of it saved. So very frustrated about that. And then I actually recorded a video, but I was running into such technical issues with ChessBase that I just ended up starting over. So that's what I'm doing right now. So very, very frustrating. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video because it's a pain in the butt what I've had to go through. Just my whole morning has been shot. The good news is I figured out how to disable a couple of super annoying quirks with ChessBase. One of them is something that I've talked about before, how whenever you make a move, it would show the yellow arrow, which I didn't like. Another one, which kept causing me technical issues when I'm trying to record the videos, is that when you click a piece, it would show all of the best squares where that piece can go to, and which lagged the video, lagged my whole computer, and was just visually annoying. So I figured out how to disable those. If you guys are curious and you have ChessBase and you're curious how to do that, I went into File, Options, and then under Engines, I disabled everything. All of the checkbox I disabled. And then also under Miscellaneous, I disabled the Mark Move with Arrow. So there you go. Okay, so I did have about 10 minutes or so before the round to prepare against, to review against my opponent, because the pairings weren't up super quickly because it was the second game of the day. And since I was white in our previous encounter, I basically just looked over that game and just kind of I looked up like a couple moves in the opening. So that's about all I had to prepare for in advance. Okay. Man, this is like going into 3 hours now of making this video. So I opened with E4 and he played C5, Sicilian, played knight F3, D6, D4, open Sicilian, we trade, and knight C6, knight F3, sorry, knight C3, it's knight F6, knight C3, A6, and we have the Najdorf, English line, E5, so it's all main line, bishop E6, F3, bishop E7, nothing fancy, all your usual typical stuff, queen D2, and then knight BD7. So knight BD7 is actually a bit of a sideline. It's the third main line. There's nothing wrong with it. It's fine. But there's differences obviously in how you play against this. I castled. He played b5, and this still followed our previous game from 3 months prior. I played g4, counterattacking, b4, and knight d5. So still theory. The idea of knight d5 is to get a pawn on d5, which will help support putting a knight on c6. Playing something like knight a4, I think, is just a little bit too slow. Plus, I think the knight is very awkward on a4 and can probably get easily targeted. I'm not sure. Well, not knight b6 immediately, but eventually, like a bishop or a queen could go to d7, for example, and then this knight is very awkward. So knight d5, bishop takes. Obviously, not knight takes, or else his bishop gets captured after I retake with the pawn. Excuse me, after I take with the pawn. So yeah, I recaptured, and then he played knight b6. So in our previous encounter, I had forgotten my theory of this line, and I made a bit of an inaccuracy, which was I took on b6. And it's not terrible for white. It's something like minus 0.6 here. Yeah, so it's not terrible, but now we can't put a knight on a5. And I forget what I played in that game. I probably played g5, I think. And so it's still a game here, but black has a little bit more initiative on attacking on the queen side here. So in this game, I was able to improve upon that previous game by reviewing the game beforehand and remembering what the best move was, essentially. And I played knight a5. So the reason I didn't play knight a5 in the first game was because I thought knight a5, I thought he just takes on d5, and then I don't have that anchor point for my knight to snug in on c6, because my knight will be gone. Sorry, my pawn will be gone. But that doesn't stop us from playing knight c6. In fact, it still works. So in this game, I did play knight a5. And black can actually take with either knight. In the game, my opponent took with the f knight. But black can also take with the b knight, in which case white's response is pretty straightforward. Just knight c6, attacking the queen, but also forking the b4 square. And so if black plays knight c7, then we can just take on b4. And if trades, I think this is fairly equal. This is just how the line would continue. White gets the bishop pair. Black hasn't castled yet. The d pawn, you could argue, is a weakness, but it's pretty equal, I believe. But in the game, he took with the f knight, and I went knight c6. Now, I'd have to check again. Now, I think slightly more accurate, or maybe not more accurate, but slightly better by like 10 or maybe 20 center pawns is actually knight b7. But it's not so clear. Like it's not so straightforward. So after the queen moves, I'm trying to remember. I think it's bishop takes b6, and then if knight takes b6, then we have knight takes d6, and if queen takes b7, then queen takes d5, and then if he has to take the bishop, and then I think this is he can't, because wait, no, this is wrong. He can't take the knight. Yeah, so I think he has to go knight takes b6. Yeah. So I think this is the line. And this is, yeah. And then so this is supposed to be, I think, the slightly better option if you of going knight b7 there. But knight c6 is pretty much equally as good, the eval. It's like maybe 10 cent upon difference. Knight c6 was more straightforward to me, so I played that. And he played queen c7. So this is the best move, and it's because if queen d7, white wins the d6 pawn. For example, knight takes e7 right away, I think. And he can't take with the knight because his other knight will be hanging. So after, let's say, queen takes d6 and bishop takes b6, we can then win. Well, do we even want it here? Yeah, then it'll transpose to that other position. And white has a bishop here, and black's pawns are a little weak. I don't have the engine on because whenever I put the engine on, it crashes my computer, basically, or ChessBase will crash. Yeah, ChessBase will crash. So, and I think we could also take on b6 here as well. But that's probably even better. This might be the better line. I think bishop takes b6, and he can't take on c6 because then I have queen takes d5, where I'm just up a piece or I'm winning his rook. So, and then if knight takes b6, or would this would just transpose, would it not? Yeah, maybe it would just transpose. Yeah. But the best move was queen c7, which is what he played. And the difference, by the way, there is a difference, which I have to figure out here. I think, is there a difference? What am I wish I could turn on the engine here. Yeah, okay, I'm going to turn it on not in ChessBase, but in Lichess, because I am curious. And if I had my notes, this would not be a problem, but ChessBase does not want to cooperate today. Yeah, so queen d7. No, yeah, white's just completely winning. So yeah, either bishop b6 or knight e7 was fine. And I'm just looking at in a different window. I know you can't see. No, it's because of what I showed, but yeah, it is +2 there, believe it or not, in those positions that I was showing. Yeah. Okay, let me get back to here. Whoops. Oh, come on. Just make the move. Oh God, I'm almost done with ChessBase. Like I might just go back to using Lichess. It's so cumbersome. There we go. Like just moving between variations is such a pain even. Like it won't by default go to the first variation. It'll ask you which one you want to go to. Like go to one by default. Okay, so yeah, so just to show this again. So had he played a move like queen d7, and then this happened, something like this happened, I could take either on b4 or d6. I think taking on b4 is even better actually instead of d6 because we're attacking both the knight on b6 and the pawn on d6. And if black plays a move like knight c8, defending both the knight and d6, then we actually have tactics such as just winning the pawn on a6. And if black takes it, we have queen b5, winning the rook. Yeah, and if he doesn't move that, well, what's he going to do? Because we're still attacking d6. If he plays something, if he brings a king up, well, this is not good for him, right? Oh, sorry, his knight's hanging. Yeah, so this is why this is good for white. He's going to lose something. Yeah, he can't hold on to all of this. So that's why, long story short, queen d7 doesn't work. And in fact, the only move here that doesn't lose for black is queen c7, which he did find. Okay, I took on e7, knight takes e7, and he recaptured with the king. So this was important, because if he doesn't take with the king, then I do get a good position again. So for example, if he takes with a knight, then I take on, I'll take on on b6 first, and then then I think I just take on d6, and again we have a position that is supposed to be good for white, something like +1 or so. We have a bishop, and black's pawns are a little bit scattered, a little bit weak, and his king is still in center, which isn't such a big deal in the endgame, but his rook on h8 is inactive, and so this would be better for white. And if he takes with a queen, it's the same thing. By transposition, just take on b6 first, and then we have queen takes d6. So my opponent, again, found the best move of king takes e7. Actually, there was another move here too. Also good was knight takes e3 first, and then taking on e7. So he went king takes e7, again, showing a lot of maturity. That's a big boy move. I went bishop takes b6, knight takes b6, and queen takes b4. So queen takes b4, the most natural move, right? But it's actually an inaccuracy. Sorry, my jaw's getting really stiff, so it's getting hard to talk now, because I've been recording this video for so long. Like this. And sometimes when I talk quickly, my jaw gets really stiff. So but queen takes b4, the most natural looking move, but better was actually getting at this king, because this king is in the center, and so the computer wants to open lines here with f4, and just threatening to open up lines. Note that if black takes, I don't know if we want to take on f4 or even play something just like bishop d3 and get the other rook in. Probably both are fine, but just opening up that king was the better option. Not by a big margin. It's like 0.7. F4 is like 0.7, and taking on b4 is -0.2. I do remember that. Funnily enough, the second best move here, instead of f4, is queen g5 check, when black's only move here is king f8, and then to just repeat the position by going queen d2 to then play f4 again. I say repeat because black's best move here, I think, is queen e7, or it's king e7, because we are attacking the d6 pawn again. Okay, but in the game, I took on b4, and he played rook h8, best move, and the eval was -0.2 here. I played c3. Slightly better was a more active defense, which was queen e4, which defends the c2 pawn, but also threatens f4 again, and just down the road, we have like maybe queen takes h2, and it's just and it centralizes the queen, and it gets it off the b file. So that would have been a better move. But I played c3, which was okay. My opponent played queen c6, and then I thought for 11 minutes here. So in this position, I felt that it was probably fairly equal, and there were many different ways to play. But there was one move that came to my mind, and then I calculated it forever. So just like the computer earlier suggested f4, opening up lines to the enemy king, that's the first thing that came to mind for me here. And so I thought f4, just trying to open up lines to the king. Now, obviously, I saw that hangs my rook. But I thought, okay, well, what if he takes the rook? Do I have anything? And so what I was looking at was f4, queen takes h1, queen takes d6 check, king e8, and then with the king being on a light square, we have bishop b5 check, and we have a discovery on his queen. Now, it doesn't end here because after a takes b5 check, we can't take the queen right away because knights, and I didn't see this difference. This was after I went home and looked at it with the engine, but this allows knight c4 with a tempo on our queen. Queen has to move somewhere, and then I believe knight takes a2, threatening knight a1 check, winning our rook. And it also forks the b2 square. So it's basically a fork. Rook takes a2 is a fork, right? And I think black is better. I think it's like -2. So if we play like rook d1, actually, if we did that, I think I'm just losing the queen after rook a1 and then do the fork here. Yeah, so that would just lose the queen. And if I move the king, well, this is our only square, one of these two squares, and then he has a check. And this would be mate, right? Rook a8 mate. And here, I think he can just repeat the position. Or in fact, yeah. He can just repeat the position here. Actually, I wonder if he could even just play rook c2, because I can't take because of the fork again. In fact, yeah, this actually looks pretty dangerous. Yeah, so this would be a problem. So we can't take the queen right away. So the best move would be queen takes e5 check first, which solves that issue, and then we take the queen, I think. And now there's some difference. Yeah, because now the knight doesn't get a tempo by hitting the queen, and then so now it can't go knight c4 because it's our move now. So I'm sure I would have found that in the game though, because why take the queen right away anyways when I could just take a pawn first anyways, right? So, but we still have to be accurate there. And if I did do that first in the game, queen takes e5 check, it still work here. I think white is a little bit better, but it's still it's still a bit of work. But I would have liked this position, I think. Yeah, so that's what I had calculated, and there's also another line of if he doesn't take the rook, if he makes a move like if he takes the pawn, for example, then we have bishop g2. And if he takes the bishop, once again, no, wait, is it here? Yeah, I think first queen takes d6 check. Yeah. And then we have rook he8, which just wins in 2 moves. So and if he doesn't take the rook and he doesn't take the pawn, then I'm just threatening to take on e5 and open lines. Like if he I don't know, makes a random move like this, I think I'm just threatening to take on e5 and threaten check. So f4 I thought was a brave move, but then I think I spent so much time looking at queen h1, I didn't look at other options here for black. And so in the game, let me just go backwards a little bit to get, oh, sorry, shoot. This is, chess base is being weird. Yeah, well, I kind of spoiled it there. Sorry. So after f4, I just missed knight d5, which is what my opponent played. And now he's forking f4 and my queen. And I have nowhere to defend my queen and the f4 pawn. And it's annoying because I spent so much time with my blinders on just looking at queen takes h1. Yeah, I didn't look at other options here for black. And I just missed knight d. I just simply missed the simplest move, knight d5. Yeah, and now I'm just losing a pawn, and an important one. Because not only do I lose a pawn, I lose a potential pawn that helps break open the center, plus his knight gets very, very active here. So I played queen e4, and I was really upset with myself just for allowing and missing knight d5, because f4 was totally unnecessary. I just played it wasn't quite a hope chess move, but there was a lot of influence of that. Yeah, and it was just completely unnecessary. I had a million other moves that I could have played that would have been fine. So yeah, he responded with knight takes f4. I played bishop d3. He traded queens. I recaptured, and he played rook a b8. And at this point, my mind was not in the right place. I was still upset with myself from having allowed knight d5, knight takes f4, that I blundered again. But I'm already down a pawn, and more importantly, it's not just a pawn though. Again, like he has this passed e pawn, and these 5 pawns like are just super strong. Like this is just losing. But I made matters worse because again my mind was so frazzled here. I played king b1, completely missing rook takes c3, which is what he played, obviously. And the computer kind of agrees with me that like I'm already just completely losing here, that this actually didn't even make much of a difference to the position. Just simply playing f4 was the big blunder, allowing knight d5. But yeah, this made matters worse. I played rook c1, played knight e2, which at first glance looks just completely winning on the spot. Idea being that I can't take on c3 because he just recaptures and then he wins the bishop. But I can actually just attack the knight, which is what I did. He went knight f4, just returning back to where he was. And I repeated, of course. But he doesn't want the draw, obviously, so he took on c1. I took back with the rook. He played d5, getting a tempo on my bishop. I played bishop c2. He brought up the king. Played bishop a4. Rook b6. Kind of an interesting move. Kind of weird, right? Not sure what that was about. Oh, yeah, sorry. He just wants to stop rook c6. Never mind. That makes perfect sense. I played rook c8. I was like on the cusp of resigning, but I just played on a little bit because, you know, why not? Just play on. Trying to get active, hoping that somehow he screws up. Like he puts the rook here and the knight here, and then I get a... That's not checkmate, but I don't know, hoping for some miracle. He played e4. I played king c2, trying to stop these pawns and help get my king doing something. He played knight d3, and I gave a check. King e5. And around here, I actually thought that I was starting to give him some annoyances. I still believed he was winning, but I thought I was making him work for it a little bit. Um, King e5. And yeah, because I started to see things here like bishop b3. And I actually thought that I was going to win a pawn here for some reason. Yeah, I thought I was winning a pawn here, and then I just missed that he actually could just play rook c6. Oh no, not here. I thought he could just play rook d6. I didn't see that immediately, but he gives a check first, which just lets my king get more active, and then he plays rook d6, and I give a check, and he went king f4. Yeah, king e4, king d4 doesn't really make sense because then he's blocking his pawn, and how does he progress from there? He can't give check because then my rook could take. So he went king f4. I went rook e7. And he went knight e5. Played h3, defending my pawn. And he has to protect the knight, so he can't go after my pawn or I take his knight. So I was trying as hard as I could. He went e3 check. King e2. Rook e6. I went rook a7. I don't want to trade here. I can't trade. I'm down 2 pawns, right? And then my young opponent played, after only a 3-minute think, d4. And I was looking at d4 here, and like around all these moves, I was eyeing kind of d4, and I thought I remember thinking like, oh, d4 is interesting. Might he play d4 because he gives up the rook, but then he might be able to continue pushing the pawn. But I didn't have a super long time to think about it because he played it after 3 minutes. But I remember thinking like, if he plays d4, I might actually have a chance here because I do have a bishop, and I might be able to return it back and maybe even sacrifice it for one of the pawns. And that's my only chance, is if he plays d4. If he doesn't play d4, like I don't have anything. So I was hoping for d4, but I thought there's like a tiny chance he'll play it, like 5%. And then he played d4, and as soon as he played it, my emotions were like whoa, like, did he screw? Like, am I back in, or am I winning? Am I drawing? It was a huge energy that filled me. I was really excited once he played it, but then the more I looked at it, it just seemed to be winning, and I couldn't really believe like wow, now he's just sacking the exchange when it's not needed. Like, he could just play anything, and anything is winning. This is not like such a move. It's a dangerous move, right? It's I don't want to say risky, but it's a dangerous move because if he calculates incorrectly, he's at best drawing, right? But no, d4 just straight up works. So if I take the rook, I think he just starts with a check, and if I go to d1, I think he just starts with another check, and then after I go king d2, knight comes to f3, and then he queens. I can't stop it. And if I go to e1, well, sorry, if I go to e1 here, just knight f3 first, and then check, and then he promotes. So yeah, I thought here for very long. And again, I was still just kind of in shock that he's playing like my opponent's only like maybe 10 or 11 or 12. And I'll tell you after the game how he does in terms of overall accuracy, but he wasn't giving me anything. So I didn't take the rook because of what I saw. And I just saw that if I take the rook, I'm just losing after d3 check. So I ended up playing rook takes f7 check. Very hard not to take his rook, but yeah, I went rook takes f7. And after knight takes, bishop takes e6. But unfortunately, this doesn't stop his same idea. He just brings the knight back. I play bishop d5. Gives me a check, and there's just no stopping it. We looked at this before, how this doesn't work. Now my bishop does stop knight f3, but if I go back to king d1, still just this check, and I think he still just gives me a check anyways. And even though I can take it, I'm not stopping him from queening here. So I played king f1, hoping that somehow that would change things, but it doesn't, because after knight f3, which is what happened in the game, I played bishop b3, last ditch effort, and then he played e2 check, and I resigned. So a tough one, because there's a lot of theory, but then the f4 was just a mistake, because I just simply overlooked knight d. What was it? Knight d6? Yeah, knight d6. I just simply overlooked that. The mistake I made afterwards when I played king b1, really, it seriously didn't matter. It was really just that f4 move. Okay, so I'm going to reveal my opponent's rating now, and then I'll talk about that a little bit. So let me do that here. My computer is slow, so okay, so here it is, drum roll. Well, first of all, you can take a guess what you think it is. And no, maybe before I do it, no, I'll show it. Okay, here it is. Oh, wrong one. Shoot. I'm sorry. Wrong one. Okay, here it is. 1298. So Jasper at the end of this tournament gained 217 points after this game. I always get these kids, these super kids, when they are underrated. So, it's a shame. He gained 217 points after this tournament. Obviously underrated. And he actually ended up winning the biggest upset prize in the tournament, not for this game, but because in the last round he beat an 1869 rated player. So it's hard out there when you play these kids who in a few years they often become national masters, or 2020 or 2100. But you play them when they're like 900, 800. It's rough. And when I ran this game through Lichess, he didn't play a single inaccuracy in the game. Like it gave 0, 0, 0. And his average center pawn loss for the whole game was 12. And he had a 97% accuracy. So it's rough. And I played well, except for, F4. Obviously F4 was a mistake, but the opening, I got the knight a5 in. Sorry, that's the wrong line, because this is the right line. So I got this position where white is a hair bit better, although taking on b4 is only equal. Better was f4 here, but then I played f4 here. Yes, I screwed up in the game, but also my opponent played perfect, really. He played pretty close to pitch perfect in the game. Didn't give me any ways to come back. I tried to crawl back, but yeah, he didn't allow it. He even sacks his rook because he calculated that it works, and he followed through. Yeah, so that was round 3. I was pretty I don't know if disappointed more than upset. I mean, I'm used to losing to these kids. I'm used to it. I'm used to losing to these kids that are underrated. That's not a new thing, but it just kind of sucks when it happens over and over and over again, and you know that they're underrated, and you just get penalized. And the thing too is, had I won the game, I'm not winning many points because he's lower rated. I'm winning like maybe 5 points or something. So yeah, frustrating, but that's how it goes. So that was round 3. Stay tuned for round 4. Let me know what you think of the game in the comments, and thanks for watching. See you next time.